The attack came before sunrise. Mist still hung over the river when the first longship appeared, silent, black against the silver water. Then another, and another. By the time the monastery bells rang, it was already too late. Lady Elswith stood at the balcony of her father's manor, watching smoke rise from the coastal village. She had heard stories of the Northmen, raiders who came like storms and vanished with silver, grain, and people. But stories feel distant. Until the ships reach your shore. The Vikings moved fast. Axes shattered wooden gates. Shields slammed against doors. The air filled with screams and the smell of burning thatch. Elswith was not a warrior. She was a noblewoman, raised in stone halls, trained in embroidery, music, and the politics of marriage alliances. Her future had been arranged. But fate does not honor arrangements. The guards fought bravely, but the Norsemen were relentless. Within minutes, the manor doors burst open. She tried to run. Heavy boots thundered behind her. A rough hand seized her wrist. She expected death. Instead, she was dragged outside, alive. The Vikings did not kill every noble. Some were worth more breathing. As the manor burned, Elswith was forced toward the longships. The coastline shrank behind her as ropes were tightened around her wrists. Her home was gone. Her old life ended in smoke. But the sea ahead held something far more terrifying than death. The unknown. The voyage north was merciless. The sea was violent and endless. Salt spray stung her eyes. The wind cut through her thin gown. Other captives huddled near the center of the ship. Monks, farmers, 2 young boys. Some cried. Some prayed. The Vikings did neither. They laughed. They sang. They rowed as if the ocean itself belonged to them. Elswith studied them quietly. Their armor was not uniform. Some were chainmail, others leather. Their hair was braided. Their movements disciplined but not cruel without reason. She had expected monsters. Instead, she saw men. Hard men, but human. One warrior in particular watched her. Tall, scar across his cheek, blue eyes like winter ice. He did not touch her, did not mock her. He simply observed. Days passed. Food was thrown to captives sparingly. The cold was constant. At night, under unfamiliar stars, Elswith realized something chilling. No rescue was coming. England was far behind them, and whatever awaited her in the north would decide the rest of her life. The Viking settlement was not what she expected. There were no endless battlefields. There were farms, children running between wooden houses, women weaving wool and tending fires. The longhouse stood at the center, carved beams, dragon-headed posts guarding its entrance. Elswith was brought before the chieftain. She stood tall despite exhaustion. If she showed fear, she would become prey. The scarred warrior stood beside the chieftain and spoke in Norse. There was debate, long glances toward her. Finally, a decision. She would not be sold. She would stay, not as a guest, but not as a slave either. The chieftain's household needed someone who understood letters and numbers. Trade with foreign lands required negotiation. Her education, once meant to make her a proper wife, had become her survival. She was given wool garments, a place near the fire, food, not freedom, but not chains. That night, lying beneath animal furs, she realized something unsettling. Her life had not ended. It had shifted, and survival would now depend on adaptation. Months passed. Elswith learned their language slowly. She watched how disputes were settled at the Thing, the Viking assembly. She observed their gods Odin, Thor, Freya. Their world was harsh, but it was not mindless chaos. Women here held authority within households. Some even owned land. It was different from England, not necessarily lesser. The scarred warrior, whose name she learned was Leif, began teaching her Norse words. In return, she helped with trade calculations and letters. Trust formed cautiously. She remained captive, but she was no longer powerless. Over time, villagers stopped looking at her as foreign prey. She became useful, respected, and that was more powerful than pity. Yet some nights, she stood at the fjord's edge, staring south. wondering who she would be if she ever returned, and whether England would still recognize her. Years later, traders from England arrived. They recognized her. Shock filled their faces. "You live." Yes, she lived, but not as the woman who had been taken. She could return. The offer was real. Her homeland was rebuilding. Her family lands possibly reclaimed. But standing beside the longhouse, wearing wool instead of silk, speaking Norse as easily as English, she hesitated. She had lost everything once. But here she had built something new, not through force, through resilience. The Vikings had captured her body, but they had not destroyed her mind. And in adapting, she had become something stronger than before. Her life did not end the day the longships came. Transformed. History remembers raids. It rarely remembers survival. If this story moved you, subscribe to Whispers from the Past, where forgotten lives and hidden transformations are brought back to light. Because sometimes, the greatest battles are the ones fought inside.